New game announcements have always excited me, and in this video we're going to talk about some of the newest ones. Some of these are big, well-known titles, but others might be hidden gems you've completely missed. So yeah, I think this list is going to surprise you a bit. Let's get started. Don't Starve. Elsewhere. If you've played the first Don't Starve, then you already know how special that game was. And honestly, I think a lot of people have been waiting for something like this for years. It's been over a decade since the original launched as an indie title and won over so many players, especially with how fun it was to play with friends. Now we finally have Don't Starve Elsewhere. At its core, the game still keeps that classic formula: survival, gathering resources, crafting, and exploring. But it's not just more of the same. They've actually expanded the experience in meaningful ways. For example, visually the game looks a bit more refined this time around. On top of that, vertical exploration has been added, meaning we'll be able to climb mountains and interact with the world in new ways. There are also new regions, new enemies, and completely fresh mechanics that build on the original foundation. In my opinion, if you enjoyed the first game even a little bit, this is one you should absolutely keep an eye on. And before we move on to the next game, you can always support the channel by subscribing. It really helps. Let's continue. Warhammer Survivors. As someone who's a big fan of Vampire Survivors, I added this to my wishlist the moment I saw it. You already know the Warhammer universe. Now imagine that combined with the gameplay style of Vampire Survivors. You start off with almost no power, and as you level up, you unlock upgrades while waves of enemies keep coming at you. The goal is simple: survive as long as you can and push as far as possible. Visually, the game looks really clean, and I'm honestly very curious to see how the Warhammer universe blends with this formula. In my opinion, this combination has a lot of potential, and it could end up being surprisingly addictive. Castlevania, Belmont's Curse. If you're into the Castlevania style, then Castlevania Belmont's Curse might be exactly what you're looking for. Published by Konami, this game honestly feels like a love letter to fans of the series. Visually, it looks great, but more importantly, the gameplay mechanics, especially for a Metroidvania, seem really satisfying and well designed. I'll be honest, I'm not the biggest Metroidvania expert out there, but this is one of those games that makes me want to give the genre another shot. There's just something about the atmosphere and the design that feels right. What do you think? Would you try it? Valor Mortis. Now, if you want something a bit more insane, I couldn't leave Valor Mortis off this list. In this game, you play as a soldier in Napoleon's army, but things take a very unexpected turn. It's a first-person roguelike where you start as a regular soldier, but the moment you get shot in battle, you wake up somewhere completely different. From there, you're thrown into a chaotic world filled with all kinds of enemies, and honestly, the action looks like it's going to feel incredibly satisfying. You can use both melee weapons and firearms, which adds a lot of variety to combat. What makes this even more interesting to me is the developer behind it. They previously worked on Ghost Runner, so expectations are naturally higher, and visually and stylistically, I think it's fair to say the game takes some inspiration from Dishonored, which is definitely a plus in my book. Yeah, this one is 100% going on my wish list. Thick as Thieves. This one immediately got my attention, especially because someone who worked on Deus Ex is behind it. And if you've been on this channel for a while, you probably already know how much I love Deus Ex. And if you didn't, well, yeah, I'm a huge fan. At first, Thick as Thieves was introduced as a competitive multiplayer game, but later the developers decided to shift direction. Now it's primarily a single-player experience with a co-op mode included. The game focuses on stealth gameplay. You'll be sneaking into buildings, picking locks, moving across rooftops, and staying hidden in the shadows. Using your abilities, you'll need to complete objectives without being seen and then escape successfully. If you enjoy stealth games, I'd definitely say this is worth checking out. Windrose. Windrose is a PvE survival game set in the Age of Pirates, and it lets you fight both on land and at sea, either solo or with your friends. You start by building your own ship and exploring a massive open ocean. As you progress, you go on expeditions, discover new areas, and engage in combat that has a bit of a Souls-like feel to it. If you like pirate-themed games, I think this one has a lot of potential. The game already has over 1 million wish lists, which says a lot. And honestly, it looks really good so far. There's even a demo available on Steam right now, so I definitely recommend giving it a try. Crop. If you're into Lovecraft-style games, I think Crop might be right up your alley. You play as a farmer, trying to make your farm safe while also raising animals and interacting with villagers. But at the same time, there's something deeper going on. Just like in Graveyard Keeper, you're also trying to escape from this place. While you're constantly harvesting crops and upgrading your farm, you're also slowly uncovering the mystery of why you're even there in the first place. That contrast between peaceful farming and underlying horror is what makes the game stand out, in my opinion. If you've enjoyed games like like Stardew Valley, I definitely recommend checking this one out, but expect something much darker beneath the surface. Machine Party. This game is coming from the same team behind Soul Roulette and Split, so naturally I got a bit hyped because both of those games were actually pretty solid. Machine Party is all about surviving chaotic group challenges by using whatever means necessary. It's essentially a party game made up of different mini-games, and you can play with up to 4 friends. Honestly, this looks like the kind of game you jump into on a weekend with your friends and just laugh for hours. I think the biggest strength here is the social experience. It's not about being the best, it's about the moments you create while playing. Graveyard Keeper 2. Just recently, the first Graveyard Keeper was actually free on Steam, and depending on when you're watching this, it might still be free until April 13th. Anyway, the sequel is coming. Just like the first game, you'll once again be managing a graveyard, but the sequel is expanding the concept in some interesting ways. The original already had a very unique approach to its theme, and now they're building on that with new mechanics. For example, it looks like they're introducing tower defense elements this time. So not only are you managing your graveyard, but you might also need to protect it, along with your village. If you're into these kinds of management/simulation games, I definitely recommend trying the first one, because if you enjoy it, the sequel might be exactly what you're looking for. The Lift. In this game, you play as a mechanic working inside an abandoned research facility after a mysterious accident. This place was once one of the most advanced research centers in human history, but now everything inside it is broken, silent, and left behind, and your job is to fix it. Using different tools, you repair systems, restore parts of the facility, and solve puzzles as you progress. But the deeper you go, the stranger things start to get. What I really like here is how the game mixes calm, methodical repair work with an underlying sense of mystery. You're not just fixing machines, you're slowly uncovering what actually happened in this place. Visually, the game really caught my attention. There's something about the atmosphere that feels both peaceful and unsettling at the same time. I added this one straight to my wish list, and honestly, if you enjoy puzzle-focused games, I think this is definitely worth checking out. Alabaster Dawn. Alabaster Dawn is a top-down 2.5D action RPG from the same team that made Crosscode. Now, I'll be honest, this kind of game might not be for everyone, but I still wanted to include it here because I know some of you really enjoy this style. The game is actually coming out in just about a month, and the main idea is pretty interesting. You're guiding the rebirth of humanity. It features a combo-based combat system, and from what we've seen so far, everything looks incredibly smooth, from the animations to the character controls. In my opinion, that fluidity is going to be one of the game's biggest strengths. And personally, since I really like pixel art, this game instantly got my attention. I'm definitely planning to give it a chance. If you're into action RPGs with a strong visual style and fast-paced combat, I think this is one you shouldn't ignore. Dead Disco. Dead Disco is a rhythm-based action game that mixes beat-em-up gameplay with music, and honestly, that combination already sounds like a win to me. You fight enemies by syncing your attacks and combos to the beat, and the entire game revolves around rhythm. The setting is a world torn apart by fame and betrayal, which gives it a really unique vibe. But here's the coolest part. You can actually play your own music. Yeah, you heard that right. You can load up any track you want and fight enemies to your own playlist. That alone makes the game stand out in a big way, in my opinion. Visually, the game looks super stylish as well. The art direction and overall presentation feel very polished, and it really complements the rhythm-based combat. If you're into action games with a twist, I think this is definitely one you should add to your wish list. Roman Triumph. Roman Triumph takes us back to ancient Rome, but instead of focusing on war alone, this is a survival and city-building experience. You gather resources, expand your city, and try to keep your citizens happy, because if they're not, things can go downhill pretty fast. Your goal is to turn your settlement into a thriving Roman city, but it's not just about managing people. The gods are also part of the equation. You'll need to maintain good relationships with them because their influence can directly affect your city, especially during attacks. Balancing survival, expansion, and divine favor adds an extra layer of strategy that I think makes the game more interesting. On top of that, you can play with up to 8 players, which makes it even more appealing if you enjoy co-op experiences. Honestly, this feels like one of those hidden gems that could surprise a lot of people. I'd say it's definitely worth trying out. Frostраil. This game takes place in a frozen post-apocalyptic world where you travel across the wasteland by train, and honestly, it really reminds me of a certain TV show. If you know, you know. Let me know in the comments. The game looks great visually, and since it's a survival game, I added it straight to my wish list. The core loop is pretty interesting. You move forward with your train, stop at different locations to gather resources, upgrade your train, and then continue your journey into more dangerous and rewarding areas. What really caught my attention, though, is the enemy design. It feels unique, like something we don't usually see in these kinds of games. It's planned for Q4 2026, and in my opinion, this is definitely one to keep an eye on. Away Team. I honestly want to call this Oxygen Not Included too, but the developers decided to go with the name Away Team. Still, let's be real. This is basically the sequel. Just like in the first game, you're building a colony inside an asteroid in space and trying to survive. But this isn't your typical survival game. Every single action you take actually matters. You're dealing with complex systems like chemical reactions, extremely detailed temperature simulations, and resource management that can spiral out of control if you're not careful. It's one of those games where you constantly have to think ahead and come up with creative solutions just to stay alive. In my opinion, this is the kind of game that really challenges your brain. It's not casual at all, but that's exactly what makes it so satisfying. And the best part? You can play it in co-op. Figuring all this chaos out with your friends sounds like a lot of fun, or a complete disaster. Probably both. Alkahest. Alkahest immediately caught my attention. It's a first-person fantasy action RPG developed by Push-On, and honestly, it checks a lot of boxes for me. It has role-playing elements, it's set in a medieval world, and it focuses heavily on melee combat. I mean, what more could you want? From what we've seen so far, the developers have clearly put a lot of effort into making combat feel impactful and satisfying. It looks like they really want players to enjoy every interaction. They've also mentioned taking inspiration from games like Dishonored and Kingdom Come Deliverance, which honestly makes it even more interesting in my opinion. The game includes crafting systems as well, and visually, it looks very impressive. If you're looking for a medieval action experience, I think this is definitely one to keep on your radar. Maybe even add it to your wish list.